Everyone, welcome back. We're continuing our Java programming series in 2025, and so far we've covered like a lot of concepts in this channel. And in our last video, we talked about classes. So we saw how to create class, how to assign value to some fields, and what are like instance variables and class variables. We also touched on static keyword a little bit, but in this video, I'm dedicating this video just for a static keyword because it's really important, especially when you start working in real projects. So what is exactly static keyword? In our last video, we talked that it's a class variable. For example, when we created this value, we were setting for all the instances we created, right? So whenever we want to share something to all the instances in that particular class, or to all the objects created from that class, we have to use a static keyword. So let me pull a small diagram. So for example here, let's imagine there is a class called student, and there are three students, John, David, and Smith, and they have their own name and they have their own ID, like 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7. But imagine like they have a same like a college name, right? So they study at the same college, let's say ABC College or ABC University. So it makes sense to define all three objects, John, David, and Smith. But for that class, a particular field called college name or name of the college must be the same. Otherwise, we have to assign every time we create object, right? So that's the basic analogy. And then I will exactly show you how to create that. So let me take it out. And then, so first of all, I will be creating a new class. For example, I'll be saying it static and then class and then demo, or yeah, it's fine. Class name has nothing to do with for us at this moment. So what are we gonna do with this class, right? Or maybe I can say, because we already have like a lot of classes with name student, so I'll be renaming it to something student and then static and then demo, right? It's specifically for static keyword to illustrate student behavior, right? So in our last video, we talked about like creating some variables and fields, right? So these are object level non-static instance variables, right? So I'm going to be saying it is a string name. A student will have a name, and then let's say integer id, or some people call it roll number. That's fine, whatever you call it. And so like I said before, so because we want to share this field to all of the instances of this class, so I'm going to be proceeding it with a static keyword. So for example, the college name, as of now, it is instance, so it will be created for each instance, right? If you don't specify, it will be null. But if you do static, it is going to be shared for every single instance we create from this class, right? So that's the main purpose. And and then I can now assign this value to, let's say, ABC college, right? They all belong to ABC college. And here, so what I'm gonna do is like I'll be initializing ID and name, and then the college name will be automatically be populated for everything, for every instance, right? And then I'll be like printing student information. So in our last video, we also saw how to print these values, so how to define function and those things. So let's say I just want to print, so I'm not going to return anything, and then print student and then info. This is the name of the method. So whenever we attach this a class and object, so we generally call it method, otherwise people call it function, but that's another rule. And so what I'm going to do is system.println name equals to, and then I'm going to concatenate the name and then id equals id. All right. So this is for printing student information, right? So here, so basically we are done with a basic student class to demonstrate static keyword. So let me create a main method here. So it's like a public, and again, I'm using Java 25, so it's by default. You don't need to write public, but I will write in case you are using any other version below 25. So here, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a, just imagine, because the name of the class is different, but in real world it would be student, right? Because we have already created a lot of student class, so we cannot just write that name. I'll be writing student demo, and then student one equals to new student demo, and then so for student one, I'm gonna say name equals to, let's say, John. We can go to the previous example, and then I'm gonna duplicate with Control D or Command D, and then here, and then ID equals 123. All right, so we are all set for a student. And so what I can do is I can call this print student info for this student one. All right, so student one dot print student info, and I call this. And if I call this, and again, and call is equals to call is, because we missed that all listening. All right, so we missed that, and now we should be able to get, because we are assigning this value. And look at this. So all right, so oh no, I printed from the another class. Names on ID and call is ABC. All right, so here I'm just gonna copy this one, Control D, and then instead of student one, I'm gonna name it two, and then David, and student two dot ID equals 456, right? And if I print it, now I'll be getting the same college name but different name. Name null. All right, let me see what is wrong here. It's the two that was missing. So let me run it, and name is David, ID 456, and call is ABC. So what went wrong here? Okay. All right, so I just erased the student one. Let me print it, and then we will see two different printed statements. So this is for John. This here the same copy of college, right? Because so let's say you wanna change this, right? So what we can do is we can create another method for changing it. But before, we also have a static block. For example, I don't need to do it this way. I'll copy it, and then we can have another block called static block that loads, as soon as the application loads. So if I do call his name and then just this, and I remove this, so now what I'm doing is, it's because it runs only once, and the only one copy will be created, and we are setting it among all the instances, right, across this class wherever we go. So if I run it now again, we will get the same output. So this static block is pretty important. So if you pay attention to this, so since this is attached to this class, not to the object, so what we going to do is we are going to receive only one copy of it. So it will be initialized as soon as it loads, and then the college name will be initialized as ABC college, so that every instance we create down here will share the same copy. All right, and then if you ever want to change it, so for example, if I want to change it, change and then college, and then string, and then sorry, string and then name, and then what I can do is college name equals to and name. So I can change it, and then if I make it static, that means I don't need to if I make it static, this method just static keyword followed by the normal method signature with no return type, right? That means now I can say this method belongs to the class, not to the object, right? So I don't need to do anything, right? So currently for this John, right, this is let me run it to show you that for John and David it's the same college. But if I want to now change it, student one dot, look at this. So if you pay attention to this, there is no method called change college, right? So if you do change college and then DEF, for example, so by default, so the IDE does not give us the auto completion, but we can do it. But let's see, this is static method, and then we are accessing via instance reference. That means what the IDE is suggesting is, so you are defining method as an instance, but you are just calling with the help of objects. So that's not recommended. So what we can do is, because the name of the class is student static demo, I'll copy it, and then if it is a method, you can just do class name. Sorry, if it is a static, you can do static the class name followed by change college, that is the method name. And then since it expects a string as a name, what I can do is def college. Okay, so and if I print now, this should have been changed, and the David will refer to new college name def college. And then if I copy this, and so student 3 and Smith, and sorry, student 3 dot name, and then student 3 and also student 3, right? So this is Smith and 890. All right, so let me print it now def, right? So they are basically sharing the same value across the instances, right? That's the main idea behind a static keyword. So whether you want to make it so for example, when you want to do access this method, so what you can do is a student static demo dot and then the variable name. So right, that's going to be like more accurate. So if you do it A B C D E F, right? So whenever there is a variable that's static and it's accessible, you always have to proceed with this class name, right? Because they belong to class. That's why they are called class variables. So some people might ask you what is class variable, and you just say, the static variables are class variable. Why? Because they are accessed with the help of class and not object. I mean, you can access with the object, but that's not the purpose. And you can also say, because they belong to class and not to the object, they are called as class variables, right? Not instance variables. And similarly, this static method is called as instance method, not sorry, is class method, not instance method. And this is how you actually assign. This is normal, and whenever you access, if it is a static method, you just may proceed with class name and then method name and followed by arguments if there are any. All right, so that was pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoy it, and if you have any questions, please write down in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.